Hey, good looking. I'm so glad that you came to my kitchen today to sit there and see what we all have cooking. Grab a hold of that vine, swing right on in my kitchen, and let's get cooking. Good looking. Well, hey there, good looking. I'm so glad that you came to my kitchen today because we're going to sit there and can up Velveeta shells and cheese. That's right, just like what you see on the store shelves, but better because we're canning it up ourselves. So let's go ahead and jump right on in to our recipe. You're gonna need 1 pound of Velveeta cheese, which would be half of a block. You would need 1 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. We're gonna sit there, cube up our Velveeta cheese. We're gonna open up our can of evaporated milk, and we're gonna put it into our saucepan, and we're gonna take it over to the stove, and we're just gonna sit there and melt the cheese. So I'm just gonna take my saucepan, I'm gonna set it off to the side over here. As you see, I have my half a pound of Velveeta cheese. Now I'm just gonna take my jar lifter and my debubbler and my paper toweling. We're just gonna set that right off to the side as well. I'm gonna take the wrapper off the cheese, and like I said, I'm just gonna roughly cube it up so it melts a little bit easier. The cheese is all cubed up. Now I'm gonna go and open up my can of evaporated milk. But before you open up your can of evaporated milk, please be sure to shake it really good and then open it. I opened up my can of evaporated milk, add that all to the saucepan. Now we're gonna sit there and take our Velveeta cheese and just don't all add it in one clump. Kind of break it all up as you're adding it. So I'm gonna keep adding up, or not adding up, adding the Velveeta cheese to my saucepan. Okay, I'm gonna quick wash my hands again. I'm gonna grab my saucepan. We're gonna take it over to the stove, and we're just gonna heat it up until all the cheese is melted. And please don't heat it all up on high. You're gonna want a medium-low heat while we're warming up the milk, and we're bringing the cheese and we're rendering it down into the milk to make this glorious sauce. Okay, while our cheese is melting over the medium-low heat, let's go through the rest of the materials and the ingredients that you're going to be needing. So you're going to be needing, of course, your canning rings and your canning lids, canning funnel. I'm going to put some vinegar in this bowl. wipe my rims. You're going to be needing a spatula or a debubbler, a ladle, a funnel, napkins or paper toweling, jar lifter, and this one comes right into the next part. After we melt all the cheese and mix it into the evaporated milk, we're going to pour it all into our measuring cup here. So we're just going to set that all off to the side. Well, we can't do Velveeta shells and cheese if you don't have shell macaroni. Well, right here we have shell macaroni. You're going to be needing some chicken bouillon. And now you can sit there and decide what you're going to be canning yours up in. You can can it up in a pint-sized jar, half pint, or you could even sit there and make little baby food jarfuls of homemade macaroni and cheese for your little babies as well. Now, in my personal opinion, if I was canning it up for like brown bagging it to work or putting it in the kids' lunchbox for their meal at lunchtime, I go with the half pints. But because I'm canning it up for my husband and myself, we're going the pint jars. This is gonna make a great side dish for a lot of meals during the dog days of summer. Okay, the Velveeta cheese has melted down and we melted it into the evaporated milk. Now we're going to bring it back over here to our work area. And we're just going to sit there and pour it right into our measuring cup here. So off it goes. And I'm not going to scrape this out because it's all going right back into the saucepan. So I have 3 cups of a cheese sauce. Put the cheese sauce back into our pan. Okay. Now I'm going to take my saucepan and I'm going to put it back over on the stove. Now we're going to sit there and need to make 3 cups of chicken broth. Okay, I have my chicken bouillon here. Now, I said we need 3 cups. Well, I would need, and I'm going to use 3 generous teaspoons of the chicken bouillon. Now I'm going to take this over to the sink and I'm just going to sit there and add some warm water to it, and we're going to take it over to our cheese sauce. Okay, I have the water added to our chicken bouillon. We're just going to sit there and mix any of the cheese sauce that was left inside of our measuring cup here and mix it all up with the chicken bouillon. And then we're going to take it over and we're going to add it to the cheese sauce. So I'm going to mix it all up and we'll be right back. I have the chicken bouillon all mixed up. Now I'm gonna bring the cheese sauce back over so you can sit there and see me add it. Okay, we have the cheese sauce. Now let's just go ahead. I'm just gonna give the chicken bouillon one quick last little twirl. Add the chicken bouillon into the cheese sauce. We're gonna sit there and mix this all together. We're gonna take it back over to the stove until this all is really nicely blended. Now you're gonna wanna keep stirring it. We're gonna get out our canning jars. Grab that canning funnel. You're gonna wanna grab a half a cup. Open up your box of shelled macaroni. Okay, I'm gonna sit there and we're gonna roughly measure out a little under half a cup. Go ahead and add that to your pint canning jars. Alright, I'm gonna sit there and grab the cheese sauce, and we're just gonna sit there and ladle it right into our pint canning jars. And you're gonna want to give them an inch headspace, so it's right at this bottom ring of your canning jar. Now I'm gonna continue filling the rest of my canning jars all up. I filled up our jars. Now I'm just gonna remove the canning funnel. We're gonna grab our debubbler and now give everything a good stir. You're gonna want them shells to be filled up with all this glorious sauce. So I'm gonna continue to keep debubbling the rest of my jars. We debubbled. Now I'm gonna grab my napkin. I have my little bowl here filled up with some vinegar, and whatever's left in this bowl after I'm done wiping the rims all down, I add to my pressure canner. So with the dipped part that we had dipped into the vinegar, we're gonna wipe down the rims of our jar. And this is the final time that you can inspect the lid, the rings of our canning jars. And I'm sorry about my puppy in the background. Grab your canning lids, put your canning lids all onto your canning jars. We're gonna grab our canning rings, and you're gonna want to just finger tighten. You're not going to want to crank it on or anything. So I'm going to continue putting my canning rings onto my canning jars, and then off to the pressure canner. These go, and we're going to pressure can them for, okay, but if you've been watching me for a while, you know I like to mark my canning jars before they go into. So I'm going to label mine Velveeta shells and cheese. Out to the pressure canner these go, and I'm going to process them at 10 pounds of pressure for 15 minutes. But be sure to sit there and vent your pressure canner for 10 minutes. Then you put your weight on. We bring it all the way back up to the 10 pounds of pressure, and that is when you start your processing time of 15 minutes.
Now see just how easy it was to can up your very own Velveeta shells and cheese. So if you liked what you saw here today, please give me a thumbs up. If you're not yet a subscriber, go hit the subscribe button, tap that little bell. That way you always know every time I do put out a new video. And as always, here's to happy cooking, but better yet, happy eatings. Y'all come back now. You hear?